Greetings to everyone in small groups. Chris and I are here, and we got a candle burning today, and it symbolizes our value of spirit.
Yeah, and the ambiance is also nice.
And
It's got a practical, aesthetic reason, but also spiritually symbolic.
word, spirit, community,
And
formation.
We're all being formed. This is great. Good start.
Want to say, you know this, not everyone would know this. I've been starting to visit small groups,
Oh, yeah.
and it's been super fun. And what I'm realizing is there's really like similar things about small groups, but also every small group is so diverse and unique. So I got to go to Dan and Mariah's. Shout out to the crew on the 24th floor, right over on top of Rogers Arena.
Oh, nice.
So you go on the deck, look down.
Imagine if it was a football stadium and it was open. Free games from the balcony. Come on.
That'd be actually amazing.
Yeah, if it was NFL.
Yeah, or if it was the Canucks just open.
Yeah, they should just have it open.
That'd be
Playing in
sick.
the rain.
Anyway, I've loved going to these groups. And so just, you can know, at some point this fall, I'm going to be visiting you wherever you are. And
great.
I'm loving it. And I just think it's just amazing, all the unique expressions of community throughout the city. And but just to see everybody gather around. This last week, it was so sweet being in the group, watching you and Jace invite us into doing like rule of life stuff. And then I was at Nick and Becca's also at their group this last week. And we got a piece of paper and people were making the rule of life and drawing. All it took was some pens and piece of paper.
Wow.
And it was just amazing. Like,
And
we're
some
doing it.
pre-thought.
A little bit of thought, a
find the
little bit of
pens.
background music. John Matson's playlist in the background.
Oh, yeah.
His Spotify playlist.
That sounds good.
So that's been cool. And hey, before we get into the content for this week,
Yeah. Seeing as we already took up 2 minutes of the video, here's
Just-
some more stuff.
having conversation together.
What's happening at the way?
whoops.
Is that what we're doing?
We're doing what's happening at the way. Anyway, we're doing right now. What's happening at the way? What's happening at the way is, well, Alpha started, and I think there's some communication piece out there that says like, it's kind of registration's closed, but you can actually still join Alpha. If
Up
you're like,
to 4 weeks at least
You
of
know,
it running.
typically with Alpha, sometimes people are joining week 2,
Yeah.
week 3, even week 4.
And sometimes you want to go once, check out the vibe before you want to invite someone into it.
Well, right.
Another reason why we keep it open.
Someone asked a
longer.
great question to me this week. They said like, hey, what if I have a friend? Can I just come? Like, is it fine for me to come without a friend? And I was like, 100%.
Yeah, for sure.
That's actually a great idea. And you can be like, I'm going to go for 3 weeks and see how my friend likes it or whatever.
Freedom Session is also starting, and registration's closed for that as well. I've
Yes,
heard.
but I know a guy that if you talk to him, he might be able to make it work.
And that guy is Jeremy, and his number, you'll probably see it at the bottom
Up
of
on
the
the screen,
screen.
you
You can just
know-
call Jeremy. He'll
Yeah.
get you into Freedom Session.
If you were like, I've been thinking about Freedom Session, the Lord has been tugging on my heart to do it. I've been making excuses, but I know it's the right thing. It's not too late for you.
Yeah, not too late.
So that, and then what else? There's a big
There's
thing.
the month of generosity is starting. The first year of the church, we did a week of generosity. Then we did 21 days. Now we're doing a month of generosity. And this is an annual season in the life of the church where we invite people to give joyfully to organizations outside of our church, above and beyond maybe what they regularly give. And it's an opportunity to highlight various organizations locally and around the world doing amazing work, but also to give generously to their work. And so every Sunday we're going to have different kind of stories or interviews with people from different organizations. It's going to be a really exciting time. And the hope is we'd be inspired to grow in the area of generosity.
Yes.
Doesn't matter how much we give. It's just about leaning into being an open-handed people. And really believing in Jesus when he said it is more blessed to give than receive. And so can't wait for the weeks to come and all the different spotlights on organizations that we're going to do. It's going to be really exciting. How much did we raise and give away last year?
I think it was like 172,000 or
Yeah,
something
we
like
beat
that.
our goal.
I love saying something really specific than being like around there.
Yeah. Yeah, you give I think 37 cents.
And yeah, something close to that.
Okay, so that's what's happening on the way.
That was great.
Anything you want to add?
Just that
Don't you felt like there should have been like, there was an opening graphic last week. There should have been like a closing graphic. So it bookends.
I think we all felt it.
So maybe the creative team would.
Like Jay stayed, whew, and then nothing happened.
Yeah, nothing. And we just moved on.
No, I just would want to say that for many in our church, like this idea of giving to, charitable organization or giving towards something is a brand new practice. Maybe for some who've never done that before. And so we just be excited about this month maybe being an opportunity for some people to give for the very first time towards some really amazing stuff and begin to stretch that muscle and grow in that way. So that is what's happening at The Way. We started a brand new series this week, and the series is called Signs of Glory, which is a beautiful series title, but why don't you help us understand a little bit what it means?
Over the next 8 weeks, we're going to be in the Gospel of John. And Signs of Glory, it has to do with these different stories in the Gospel of John where Jesus does miraculous deeds, mighty deeds. And what's fascinating about John is he doesn't actually use the Greek word for miracle that the other gospel writers use. He uses the word sign, that these acts of Jesus are meant to point beyond themselves to the glory of who Jesus is. And we call it Signs of Glory for a very specific reason. And I'll just quickly recap some of Daryl's teaching on glory, since it's in the title of the series, and it's going to come up again and again. The Greek word for glory is doxa, where we get the word doxology. The Hebrew word's kavod. And glory can mean at least three different things. Sometimes it means like illumination, like light dispelling darkness. The glory of the Lord shone around them in the Christmas story, that kind of idea. Glory, especially the Hebrew word for glory, can convey this idea of weightiness, like the weightiness, the significance, the gravitas of who God is. There's this sense in the tabernacle where the priests are there and the glory of God comes down and they fall down. They can't even stand under the weightiness or significance of who God is. And then the third meaning of glory, Daryl, I think, said something like this might be the crucial meaning. Glory can mean essence, like the essence of who God is. So when Moses prays to God, show me your glory, he's saying, show me like the essence of who you are, your character, your personhood. That's why some translators translate Moses' request, show me yourself, God. And so glory can be just the essence of who God is. So these signs that Jesus does point towards his glory, the weightiness, the significance of who he is, bringing illumination into people's hearts, and then just revealing kind of the essence, the character of the God we serve.
I think this understanding of the miracles in the Gospels has totally changed how I read these stories. Because of course, stories of miracles like the paralytic being raised up or someone being raised from the dead, all these things are like, it's just cool. It's amazing to read all these stories. But I think to understand that all of them are pointing us towards Jesus and pointing us towards understanding more of what God's actually like. That's a cool thing. I think almost every time I read the Bible, I'm trying to go, what does this tell me about what God's like? And this series is like this idea of all these signs are telling us more about what God's like. It's like bettering our theology,
right?
Which I love.
So this past weekend was on Jesus turning water into wine, the wedding at Cana, John chapter 2. So we're gonna have you as small groups like read through it, and one of the things you can do is just share what is striking you of the story. It's an amazing, beautiful story. Jesus turning water into wine, saving a young couple from embarrassment and shame, and revealing his glory through this act. And I'm sure even as you read through it as a group, some things that Daryl shared or I shared in North Van will come to mind, and it'll act as a real prompt to conversation. But here's two things I think that would be worth also discussing in your small groups. 2 points of application Daryl made. One was that Jesus was invited to the wedding, that the author John kind of stresses this idea of Jesus being invited. And then Daryl encouraged us to invite Jesus in to the circumstances of our lives, to invite Jesus in to the places where, quote unquote, it's like the wines run dry, the places of need, the places of shame, the places of embarrassment. our relationships, our workplaces, to invite Jesus in to do what only he can do. That's what they experienced at the wedding.
Yeah.
The second, I think, point of application that was interesting was Mary says to the servants, do whatever he tells you to do. And Daryl's like, we invite Jesus in, and then we do whatever he tells us to do.
Beautiful.
And he goes, some things Jesus tells us to do are obvious and apply to all of us. Abide in him, right? Walk by the Spirit.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. But Jesus might also say, you need to send that person a message, or you need to forgive this person for this specific thing.
Yeah.
But there's this invitation to, like the servants, do what Jesus says and then wait for him to show up in surprising power. And so we'd love you to talk about those things.
Yeah.
Anything else you want?
As you were sharing, I just thought, I love that thought that when we invite Jesus in and do what he says we should do, on the other side of it, we're going to know more of what he's like.
Yeah.
That's what happens in the story. But I'm like, in all these circumstances, we're invited into obedience. It's like, I think the promise is, and we're going to know more of his glory. What's his essence? What's his beauty? And I love that. One thing I want to say is, as we now are teaching, in this series, teaching through scripture, even in light of all that, Daryl helped us understand, and hopefully this video, highlights, we really encourage you to open the Bible together and read the story and ask yourself the questions again, like even as you're reading it. What is this? What stands out to me? What's jumping out to you about the text and about what God might be revealing about himself? So that's what we want to say. And then we want to give a couple pointers around just how to do discussion well as we get going in this year still.
And I'll give you this illustration. Hopefully
wait.
it's sticky.
It'll
Imagine
probably
your
be sticky.
discussion leader has a beanbag, and the beanbag, it represents the question. It's like a parable. So you have the beanbag, and so the beanbag's the question. The discussion leader lobs it out to the group. Here's what we don't want to see.
Okay.
One person catches the beanbag and holds on to the beanbag and keeps holding on to the beanbag and keeps holding on to the beanbag. It's meant to be a group discussion, not a monologue.
Right.
Another thing we don't really want to see is the beanbag gets tossed out, the question, by the discussion leader. Someone grabs it, and then it becomes just two people throwing it back and forth, almost like a debate.
I've seen
Everyone
that.
else is watching. We've seen it happen.
I've seen it happen.
We also don't want to feel, it to feel like someone has to catch the beanbag, or like they're continually being thrown the beanbag, and they're like, I don't want to catch this. I just want to be silent. I want to just listen and absorb, because that's totally cool if that's how you feel. You don't have to catch the beanbag. But here's a picture of something that's a little better.
That was helpful,
Discussion
though.
leader
That was very helpful.
tosses the beanbag out. Someone catches the question, answers, throws it back to the discussion leader. They pass it to someone else. They catch it. They answer the question, and so on. That's better.
I like it.
Here's the ideal, though. Discussion leader tosses out the beanbag, the question, and then people in the group just start tossing it to one another.
Yeah.
Everyone's engaged. Everyone's involved. It's good listening. It's learning from one another. It's edifying. And then the discussion leader just facilitates the conversation
100%.
and redirects when it's time to move on to the next question. That's what we're hoping for. And when it comes to like a grid, maybe for us is, what should I share? Here's an acronym. I didn't make the acronym up, but it's just the acronym THINK.
Okay.
Think. And here's what it stands for. Is it truthful?
Okay.
Is it helpful? Is it inspiring? Is it needed? Is it kind? Truthful, helpful, inspiring, needed, kind. Not as a straitjacket, but just as a grid to help us evaluate. Should I be saying this right now?
I like it a lot.
And so those are just some tips. This could be its own section of tips at the way.
We need
for small
another
groups.
graphic.
If only we had a graphic for that.
It's possible to overdo the graphics, probably.
Yes.
But
I think we should just, now that we've given them this illustration, we should just throw it.
we could throw them. And I want to say alongside of that the best conversations I've ever been in small group is by listening to people, even with different perspectives than me, or who have different life experiences, and add a layer based on their experience. And so we think your best shot at having amazing discussion is to listen to one another, give space for all of it, and we're better together. Hope you have an amazing night in discussion. We love you tons.